Hi everyone, my groupmates and I will discuss the chapter 5 of our lesson entitled The American Regime. But before that, please answer the following.
4 pigs in 1 word. Please fill the boxes a word that represent to the pictures above. Every right answer will receive 50 pesos load with gift jar. Hint, part of our history. You're right! Hint, one of them is Jose Rizal. You're right! Hint, you can find it in Asia. You're right!
Historical background. The Filipino Revolution is once against the Spaniard who colonized us. For more than 300 years, our flag was hoisted on June 12, 1898, a symbol of our independence. General Emilio Aguinaldo was elected the first president of the Philippines Republic, but this was short-lived. So, yung mga revolusyonaryo ng ating bansa ay napanalunan ang pakikibaka sa mga Espanyol na mananakop. Ang ating bandera ng bansang Pilipinas ay naitaas noong Hunyo at namuno ang unang presidenteng si Emilio Aguinaldo. Bilang American was resulted in the defeat of General Miguel Marbar in 1903. The peace of movement started as early as 90s. Many Filipino started writing again, and the nationalism of the people remained undoubted. The Filipino writers went into all forms of literature such as news, poetry, reporting, stories, plays, essay, novels. The writers depicted love of independence for the country. Ang mga literary pieces na ginawa ay may temang pagmamahal at kalayaan para sa bansang Pilipinas. The following newspapers are roses. First, El Nuevo Dia, The New Day. Established by Sergio Osmeña in 90s, the American censor twice banned this untreated Osmeña with banishment. The second is El Grito del Pueblo, the Call of Nations. Established by Pascual Poblete in 90s. Third one is El Renacimiento, The Rebirth, funded by Rafael Palma in 1901. Iyon ang mga pahayagan na tema ang kalayaan ng ating bansa, kaya ito ay naipatigil ng mga Amerikano. There were also plays written. The first one is Kahapon, Ngayon at Bukas, Yesterday, Today and Tomorrow, written by Aurelio Tolentino, depicting the suppression done by American plans to colonize the Philippines. The second one, Kanikalang Ginto of Juan Abad. The third one, Malaya by Tomas Remigio. The fourth, and the last, Walang Sugat by Sobrino Reyes. During the first year of American period, the language used writing were Spanish and Tagalog, and the dialect of the different regions, but Spanish and Tagalog predomination. In 1910, the new group started to write in English, hence Spanish, Tagalog, the vernacular, and finally English, were the medium used in literature during this time. While the three groups were once in their ideas and spirit, they differed in their method of reporting. The writer in Spanish were wont to write on nationalism, like honoring Rizal and other heroes. The writer in Tagalog continue in their limitation on the condition of the country and their attempts to arouse love for one native tongue. The writer in English imitated the theme and method of the Americans.
So hi everyone, I am Raven Evangelista and I am going to present to you the literature in Spanish. The inspiration of our Filipino writers in Spanish was Dr. Rizal, not only because of his being a national leader, but also because of his novels Nole and Fili. These two novels contained the best qualities of a novel ever written, in English or in Filipino. Those who were inspired to write in praise of him were Cecilio Apostol, Fernando Maria Guerrero, Jesus Balmuri, Manuel Bernabe, and Claro M. Recto. The first one is Cecilio Apostol. Cecilio Apostol wrote poems dedicated to Rizal, Jacinto, Mabini, and all other heroes, but his poem dedicated to Rizal is considered the best poem in praise of the hero of Bagong Bayan. Next one is Fernando Maria Guerrero. It is believed that Fernando Maria Guerrero shared with the Apostol the reign in the Balagtasan in Spanish during their time. He also dedicated the poem to Rizal, but he collected the best of his poem in a book called Chrysalidas, meaning a kind of black, woolly caterpillar. Here are a few stanzas of his call to Rizal, which he wrote on June 19 in the year 1901 to commemorate Rizal's birthday. Next is Jesus Balmuri. Jesus Balmuri is well known for his pen name of Batikuling. He and Manuel Bernabe participated in a debate on the topic remembrance and forgetfulness. He was elected poet laureate in Spanish, besting Manuel Bernabe. Manuel Bernabe. Bernabe is a lyric poet, and the fierceness of his nationalistic spirit was unchanged in any topic he wrote about. In his debate with Balmuri, he was more attractive to the public because of the modious words he used, and he also defended Olvido. The next one is Mr. Claro M. Recto. In nobility of speech and theme, Claro M. Recto can compare with the other writers of Spanish. He collected his poem in a book entitled Bajo los Cocoteros, meaning in English, under the coconut tree. And here are other writers in Spanish. The first one is Adelina Guerrera. He was the first woman poet in the Philippines who was good in Spanish. She obtained the Nobel Prize in her song El Nido, or meaning in English, the nest. The next one is Isidro Marpuri. Marpuri became famous of his 4 books entitled Aromas de Ensueño, or meaning in English, Scent of Dreams. The next one is Macario Adriatico. Adriatico wrote of a legend of Mindoro entitled La Punta de Salto, or meaning in English, the Palace of Origin. The next one is Epifanio de los Santos, also known as Don Panyong. He was a good leader and biographer during the whole period of Spanish literature. And the last one is Pedro Anuario. Anuario wrote the Decalogo del Proteccionismo.
Filipino literature. Florante at Laura of Francisco Balagtas and Urbana at Felisa of Modesto de Castro became the inspiration of the Tagalog writers. Julian Cruz Balmaceda classified 3 kinds of Tagalog poets. They were Poet of the Heart or Makata ng Puso. This included Lofi K. Santos, Inigo Ed Regalado, Carlos Gatmaitan, Pedro de Gracias del Rosario, Ildefonso Santos, Amado V. Hernandez, Nemesio Carabana, and Mar Antonio. The next one is Poet of Life or Makata ng Buhay, led by Lofi K. Santos, Jose Corazon de Jesus, Florentino Colantes, Patricio Mariano, Carlos Garmaitan, and Amado V. Hernandez. The last one is Poets of the Stage or Makata ng Tanghalan, led by Aurelio Tolentino, Patricio Mariano, Severino Reyes, and Thomas Remedio. In the realm of short stories that started to appear in the column Pansamandaliang Libangan or Short Time Leisure in Dagli or Fas, we find here the names of Lofi K. Santos, Patricio Mariano, and Rosauro Almario. In the Liwayway publication, we find Deogracias Rosario, Teodoro Hiner, and Sirio H. Panganiban. Noted novelists or biographers were Valerio Hernandez Peña, Lofi K. Santos, Inigo Edregalado, Faustino Aguilar, and etc. Here are the autobiographies of some of the writers mentioned. Number 1 is Lofi K. Santos. Lofi K. Santos, a novelist, poet, and author and grammarian, covered 3 periods of Tagalog literature: American, Japanese, and contemporary period. If Manuel L. Quezon is called the father of national language, Lofi K. Santos is called the father of the national language grammar. He also called the Apo of the Tagalog writers. Banaag at Sikat was his masterpiece. Banaag at Sikat implies that there is hope in every problems that we face. The next one is Jose Corazon de Jesus. Jose Corazon de Jesus is very popular, known as Joseng Batuti. He was also called the poet of love in his time. Ang isang punong kahoy at tree, an elegy, is believed to be his masterpiece. The next one is Amado V. Hernandez. Amado V. Hernandez was dubbed Makata ng mga manggagawa or poet of the laborers in our literature because he features in his poem the intense love for the poor worker or the laborer. To him, a poem is a scent of bittersweet memories and a murmur of flowing water. The pen is powerful, and according to him, even a king can be bent by the pen. One of the masterpieces is Ang Panday. The Tagalog drama. During the advent of the American period, Severino Reyes and Hermogenes Ilagan started the movement against the Moro-Moro, a play on the Spanish struggles against the Muslims, and a struggle to show the people the values one can get from the zarzuela in the simple plays. The people one should not forget in the field of writing are the following: Severino Reyes, father of the Tagalog drama and author of the immortal Walang Sugat. Aurelio Tolentino, the dramatist in whom the Kapampangans take pride, included his writings were Luhang Tagalog, his masterpiece, and Kahapon, Ngayon at Bukas that resulted in his incarceration. Hermogenes Ilagan founded the group Kampanya Ilagan that presented many dramas in Central Luzon. Patricio Mariano wrote the novel Ninay and Anak ng Dagat, Son of the Sea, his masterpiece. Julian Cruz Balmaceda wrote Bunganga ng Pating, Shark's Mouth. This gave him much honor and fame. The Tagalog short story. 2 collections of Tagalog stories were published during the American period. First was the Mga Kwentong Ginto or the Golden Stories, published in 1936, and the Kwentong Ginto ng 50 Batikang Kwentista or the 50 Golden Stories by 50 noted storytellers. In 1939, the first was written by Alejandro Abadilla and Clodoaldo del Mundo, and contained the 25 best stories according to them. The second was written by Pedrito Reyes, Parolang Ginto or Golden Lantern, and Talaang Bughaw or List. Abadilla became popular during this period. Tagalog poetry. Almost all the Tagalog writers during the American period were able to compose beautiful poems, which made it difficult to select the best. Even if poetry writing is as old as history, poetry still surfaces with a sweetness, beauty, and melody. There are other forms of literature. The following are those recognized in the field of Ilocano literature. Number 1 is Pedro Bocaneg, father of Ilocano literature, from his name was derived the word Bocanegan, which means balagtasan, a poetic contest in Ilocano. Claro Caluya, prince of Ilocano poets, who were known as poet and novelist. Leon Pichay, known as the best bucanegero from Bucaneg, also the poet, novelist, short story writer, dramatist, and essayist. So those are the informations about the Filipino literature.
Literature of Kapampangan's Kapampango literature. Two stalwarts in literature of the Kapampangan stands out. They are 1. Crisostomo Soto, father of Kapampangan literature. The word Crisostomo, meaning balagtasan, in Tagalog is taken from his name.
January 27, 1867, Juan Crisostomo Soto was born in Santa Ines, Bacolor, Pampanga. He was a poet, dramatist, journalist, newspaperman. Soto, under the pen name of Crisot, wrote a number of lyrical poems, historical dramas, humorous play, and philosophical essays. And Zarzuelas, the most famous of which is Along Diyos or There Is No God, 1901. He translated some Spanish literature into Pampango, including Lovers of 12 Pos and Nero and the Gladiators. He was also a contributor to the revolutionary paper La Independencia. Soto joined the Katipunan during 1896 revolution and worked with Maximo Hizon in promoting Pambango ideals. He participated in several battles against American troops in 1898 under General Tomas Moscardo's forces. Soto married twice. His first wife was Julio Umadia, who bore 6 children. Julia died in 1903. His second wife, Rosario Palma, bore him 4 children. Juan Crisostomo Soto died on July 12, 1918 at the age of 51.
The second one is Aurelio Tolentino. He truly proved his being a Kapampangan in his translation of Kahapon, Ngayon, at Bukas into a Pampangan which he called Napon, Ngeni, at Bukas.
Aurelio Tolentino y Valenzuela, born 8 October 15, 1869, in Guangua, Pampanga, Captaincy General of the Philippines. Aurelio Tolentino y Valenzuela was a Filipino playwright, poet, journalist, and revolutionary. His works at the turn of the 20th century depicted her desire to see Philippine independence from its colonizers. He was arrested twice, first by the Spaniards and later by American forces. He wrote and directed the anti-imperialist play Kahapon, Ngayon, at Bukas, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, which led to his arrest in 1903. He died on July 5, 1915 at age of 47 in Manila, Philippine Islands.
Visayan literature. The following are the top men in Visayan literature. First one is Heriberto Gumban, father of Visayan literature. He wrote a Zarzuela, Moro-Moro, and a play in Visayan.
Heriberto Gumban was born on March 16, 1921 at Haganan River in Pabia, Iloilo County, Western Visayas, Philippines. Si Heriberto Gumban ay binigyan ng karangalang maging ama ng panitikang Bisaya, Tubong Iloilo. Nakasulat siya ng maraming moro-moro at komedya sa wikang Bisaya. Ang kanyang mga morong-morong nasulat ay ang Mutya nga Matinaw, ang Makinang na Alahas, ang Yawa nga Bulawan, ang Demonyong Ginto, at ang Salamin sa Pamantanon, ang Salamin ng Kabataan. Ang kanyang mga komedya ay Carmelina, Pelepro, at Colodones. He died in January 1952, Pabia, Iloilo County, Western Visayas, Philippines.
Second one is Magdalena Jalandoni. She devoted her talent to the novel. She wrote a Tanuksan Isaka Bulaklak.
Magdalena Galandoni was born on May 27, 1891 to an affluent land-owning family of Virgil Galandoni and Francisca Gonzaga in Cala Alvarez, now remain as Calle Benedicto in the former city of Salog, now Garo, Iloilo City, a present-day district of Iloilo City. She began writing at a young age, wherein she already have been poem published at the age of 12. She published her first novel, ang Mga Tunok sang Isa Ka Bulaklak, The Thorns of a Flower, which was later followed by many novels, compilation of poems and short stories. In 1977, she received the prestigious Public Cultural Heritage Award for her literary achievements from the government. She died on September 14, 1978 at the age of 87, and is survived by a few nieces as well as several other close relatives. Despite all this, she still remains relatively unknown of this day. Her family's ancestral house still stands as a historical landmark and museum not far from the Cathedral of Japan.
Philippine literature in English. In a way, we can say that we can trace the beginnings of Philippine literature in English with the coming of the Americans. For this purpose, we can divide this period into 3 time frames, namely, the period of reorientation from 1988 to 1910, the period of limitation from 1910 to 1925, the period of self-discovery 1925 to 1941, period of the reorientation 1898 to 1910. English as a literary vehicle came with the American occupation in August 13, 1898. And as they say, a choice bestowed on us by history. By 19,000, English came to be used as a medium of instruction in the public schools. From the American forces were recruited the first teachers of English. By 1908, the primary and intermediate grades were using English. It was also about this time when the forerunner in the use of English in higher education was founded. Writers of this period were still adjusting to the newfound freedom. After the paralyzing effect of repression of thought and speech under the Spain regime, they were adjusting the idea of democracy to the new physiology of the English language and to the standards of English literary style. Writers had to learn direct expression as conditioned by direct thinking. They had to learn the sentence constructions, sounds and speech in English were not the same as in the vernacular. They had to discard sentimentality and fluidity of language for the more direct and precise English language.
Not much was produced during this period, and what literature was produced was not much of literary work. The first attempts in English were in 2 periodicals of this time. A is El Renacimiento, founded in Manila by Rafael Palma in 1901. The next one is Philippines Free Press, established in Manila in 1905 by R. Mac Colon Dick and D. Theo Rogers. Poetry. In 1907, Justo Juliano Sursum Corda, which appeared in the Renacimiento, was the first work to be published in English. In 1909, John F. Salazar's My Mother and His Air Castles were also published in this paper. It was also in 1909 when Proceso Sebastian followed with him poem To My Lady in Lawag, also in this same paper.
The period of imitation, 1910 to 1924. During 1991, the publish of literary composition happened that taught Filipino writers in the English. They were imitate the American and British model. The writers of this folio are the Fernando Maramag, Juan F. Salazar, Jose M. Hernandez, Vicente Del Piro, Francisco M. Aprica, and Victoriano Yamson. They pioneered English poetry. Essay. Carlos Piro Mulo, George C. Bocubo, Mauro N. Mendez, and Vicente Hilario are the well-known their works essayists, especially in the editorial types. They use the formal types of essay. their essay will be classified as a structure and very meaningful in the terms of content. On the other hand, the next group of essayists introduce the informal types of essay that has the criticism and the journalism column. The informal essayists are the Ignacio Manlapas, Godifredo Rivera, F. Mangajas, Francisco F. B. Icasio, Salvador Lopez, Jose Lansanga, and Amando G. Bayrit. Short story. Early Laws, Dedo Star by the Paz Marquez Benitez, stand out as a model of the perfection in the character delineation. Local colors, plot, and message. Newspaper and the periodical are the printed during this time, like a bulletin. Philippine Herald, 1920. Philippine Review, The Independent, Rising Philippine, and Citizen, in the Philippines Education Magazine in 1924. Period of Self, Discovery and Growth, 1920 to 1941. The Filipino writers are acquired the masteries of the English writing. Those writers are the confidently and competently wrote a lot of subject. They went into forms of writers like the road and the drama. Poetry. The excellent poem is the writing poem in this era. Are the Marcito de Gracia Concepcion, Jose Garcia Villar, Angela Manalaang Gloria, Abelardo Subido, Trinidad da Rosa Subido, and Rafael Silveta da Costa. They really love to write poem they wrote. Poem patriotic religion, descriptor and reflective manner. The right style they have is fevers. The way of their delivery is by odes and sonnet. Essay and other prose style, 1925 to 1941. Because of the incentive provided by the publication poetry and the short story flourishing, being the popular during their times. The writer during this time are the Osman de Santa Romana, Arturo Rutul, Pasla Torinasan, and Jose Garcia Villas. Short story character during this time were the remnants of the Spanish influence in the use of expression that were fixed, sentimental, exaggerated, and bombastic.
Some of the notable works during this time were 1940 Salvador V. Lopez, Literature and Society, which is a collection of critical reflections and serious essays in which won first place in the Commonwealth Literacy Contest of 1940. 1940, Camilo Osias published The Filipino Way of Life, a series of essays on the Filipino way of life as drawn from history, folkways, philosophy, and psychology of the Philippines.
1941. If the Icasiano Manquico was reference of the base of Icasianos, essays in the Sunday Times magazine under the column from Maynipa Hut. It is an essay of the common tao in is written with humor and sympathy.
August 16, 1941, Carlos P. Romulo had an editorial printed in the Philippines Herald entitled I Am a Filipino. It was reprinted in his book My Brother Americans in 1945 in New York by Doubleday and Co. Other essayists include Ignacio Manlapas, Vicente Albano Pasis, I.V. Malari, Jose M. Fernandez, Leopoldo Y. Yabes, Isidro L. Ritizos, and Pura Santillan.
The Philippine Writers League put out a collection of essays called Literature Under the Commonwealth.
Amando G. Dairit, with his column Good Morning Judge, led others like Leon Maria Guerrero, Salvador V. Lopez, Vicente Albano Pasis, Jose A. Lansang, and Federico Mangajas.
Biography 1925-1941. In 1935, I.P. Caballero and Marcelo de Garcia Concepcion wrote about Quezon. In 1938, the Great Malayan won a prize in the national contest sponsored by the Commonwealth, the Philippines. This was written by the Carlos Quirino, the most famous biographer of the period. He also wrote Quezon, the Man of Destiny. 1940, Milares, the birth of discontent, revealed the sensitive touch of a writer who in simple language was able to reveal his profound thoughts and feelings. History. Not a much about history has been written by Filipino writers. In 1937, with regard to the literary history, we can cite Teopilo del Castillo's The Brief History of the Philippine Islands. Publication. The publication is the Philippine Free Press, provided the first incentives to Filipino writers in English by offering prizes to worthwhile contributions. Other publication follows set. Drama 1925-1941. Drama during this period did not reach the heights achieved by the novel or the short story. The app provided the incentives when they introduced playwriting as a course and established the app Little Theater.